What is up, YouTube? My name is Matt Modi. I'm a content producer and betting data analyst for OddsJam.com. Previously, before OddsJam, my real job, my real life job was as a data analyst, and then I was brought on OddsJam full time. I do work for OddsJam full time, but I'm also a part-time sports bettor. I don't do it full time. I work for OddsJam full time, but I do bet on sports part time. And the goal of this video is to talk to you about how I have made over $17,000 betting on the NBA. I've used OddsJam. I've used the OddsJam tools to bet on the NBA. It's also my most profitable sport. So let me share my screen and we can get right into it. So number one, the graph you see on the screen here is my profit by sport. You can also see on the left here my total profit. Now, basketball, I've profited over $17,000. I would say 95% of this is with NBA, right? Is specifically with the NBA. I'm also okay at football, but really the profit is with NBA, is with basketball. So in this video, I'm going to talk to you about my strategy betting on the NBA. And the only thing I'll say real quickly before getting into it, what you see on the screen here, it's information pulled from every single bet that I've ever placed since I started using OddsJam. And I was an OddsJam user starting in September 2021. So pretty much at the beginning, right before the beginning of basketball season last year. So I'm recording this in December of 2022. So it's been about a season and a quarter specifically betting on the NBA. But every single bet that I have placed, I have used OddsJam and I have tracked my bets using OddsJam as well. And it's been incredible. So betting on the NBA, there are a couple different categories, right? There are mainline bets, money line, point spread, total. There are also player prop bets. Now, player props are a huge part of why I've been so successful betting at OddsJam. So I'm going to talk about them separately. The strategies are kind of the same, but player props and game props, they're similar, but also different. The root of everything, of course, is positive expected value betting. And that is how I have profited so much on betting, on betting on basketball, is because of the OddsJam positive expected value page. So to back up a little bit, an unfortunate reality of sports betting is that sportsbooks have the edge over you. You've probably heard this in sports betting terms. It's called a juice. It's called a vig. It's something that sportsbooks charge to the odds themselves. They basically tax odds, right? So the way it works and how sportsbooks make their money is they'll charge a 4 to 7% juice to odds themselves, right? So if they think a 50-50 outcome, they'll price it at minus 110 each way. That's kind of how that works. And then they'll hope for 50% of the payout on each side, no matter if it goes over, if it goes under, if the Warriors cover, or if they don't cover. The sportsbooks want 50% of payout on each side, and then they make the money based on their juice, based on the tax. So sportsbooks inherently have the edge over you. So finding an edge back over the sportsbooks is incredibly valuable. One way you can do it, if people out there are incredibly smart with coding and stuff, are very analytically smart, and you can create your own betting model, by all means, that is a way in which you can make money betting on basketball. It's difficult. It's hard to be smarter than the sportsbooks, but for those of you that are, there you go. That's one way to do it. Another way to do it, and this is how I've been using OddsJam, instead of trying to outsmart the sportsbooks, why not just look at odds from every single sportsbook on one screen and identify situations where one sportsbook is an outlier? And that's the root of positive expected value betting, which I will get into now. So before talking about specific NBA betting strategies, when betting on positive expected value bets, you're betting on opportunities, sports betting opportunities that have some sort of mathematical edge associated with them. And the way it works is OddsJam pulls odds from the sharpest sportsbooks in the world in terms of pricing odds. That's where you see these no vig odds here. You can view these as the true line of what a sportsbook should truly be priced at, right? I like to call it the OddsJam perfect line. The way it works is OddsJam backtested thousands and thousands and thousands of betting opportunities over a long period of time, right? They wanted to get a big enough sample size over a big enough sample time period as well, right? Not like yesterday or whatever, right? Long period of time, a lot of bets. Use that data to determine, okay, based on all this data, what sportsbooks consistently do the best job at pricing odds, right? Over the course of time, what sportsbooks are the sharpest specifically at pricing NBA odds, not across all sports, but specifically with the NBA, because it's different, right? For whatever reason, sportsbooks are going to be different pricing NBA, NFL, NHL, whatever. And some sportsbooks are going to be better specifically at player props versus non-player props. And the reason why, it's really all about how much action sportsbooks accept, right? Odds change based on where money comes and goes, right? It's kind of like the stock market. If a bunch of people are hammering, hammering the Warriors, they're going to become more expensive to buy, right? They're not going to keep the same odds if people keep hammering them. Well, some sports books will accept more action than others, and those sports books are going to have more accurate odds that accurately reflect the betting market. The sports books that have limits, that limit how much action they will accept, their lines aren't going to be as tight, and that's where you can take advantage of mispriced odds. So OddsJam back-tested these betting opportunities and determined what sports books historically are the most accurate at pricing odds, and then use those sports books to set the market moving forward. Basically, the whole summarized logic being these X amount of sports books do the best job at pricing NBA odds. We're going to use them to set the market moving forward. Remove the VIG, and that part's important, right? Getting an accurate representation of what a sportsbook views a market, you have to remove the VIG. So OddsJam does that. They remove the VIG and applies a weighted average to pull in these no VIG odds here. And then the OddsJam positive expected value betting tool, it's constantly monitoring odds from the millions and millions of data points and spits out betting opportunities where you can get more favorable odds. And by more favorable, I mean higher payout for the sports bettor. You're making more money. More favorable odds than the no VIG line, right? That's how everything works. And to kind of give people another example, if that didn't make any sense, I mentioned that sports books and sports betting is like the stock market, right? Well, pretend that all of the different reputable markets, right, the stock exchanges, price Apple stock at $300 a share, right? You're going to trust that number. You're going to say, okay, so this is an accurate number on how it should be priced. Well, whatever exchange you're using, you can get Apple stock at $250 per share. Well, that seems like a profitable betting opportunity, right? The markets that you trust have it at 300. You can buy it at 250. That seems like a good betting or good stock buying opportunity. It's the same thing with sports betting. The most reputable, sharpest, most accurate sports books in the world price a play one way. You can get it lower. You can get it more favorable, less expensive on another sports book. And that's how it works. So let me refresh this page because you always want to make sure that you're dealing with the most up-to-date odds. And unfortunately, reality, another one, sports betting, is that odds change, right? Profitable betting opportunities don't last, so you need to move quick. But I'm first going to talk about player props. Player props are really fun. I love betting on player props. So when you're looking at a play, the no VIG odds here, this is the OddsJam perfect line, right? This is the true line of what a market should be priced at. So anywhere in which you see the no VIG odds, the next column over, under books, is going to be the bet that you are actually going to place. So in this case, we're looking at Royce O'Neal under 1.5 made 3-pointers. So that's the bet. The book is at Bet Rivers. You can hover and it'll tell you the book and it'll give you the odds. So the play is at plus 150 odds. The OddsJam perfect line prices this at plus 139. We are getting it at Bet Rivers at plus 150. That inherently is a profitable betting opportunity. So the first question you're going to ask, so that's how you made money on the NBA. You bet every single positive EV play, right? There's 50 on the page here? Not quite. I didn't bet every single one. And why they all are mathematically profitable, I still recommend doing a little bit of additional research. And I don't mean research as in like, let's check his projections. Let's check how he's been performing historically. All of that data feeds into how sportsbooks price odds, right? They're taking that into account when they price odds. What you want to do is if you just click anywhere in which it highlights blue, right? So if it's highlighting here blue, you click here, pulls up where every sportsbook is pricing odds for this play. What you want to do is make sure that the bet that you are placing is truly an outlier to majority, I should say, of sportsbooks, right? The majority of sportsbooks, how do they price it compared to the bet that you are placing? And this is a resounding outlier, right? Bet Rivers prices this at plus 150. Look at every other sportsbook, right? We see odds range from plus 126 all the way down to plus 116. This is a huge outlier compared to every other sports book and how they price odds. So, and that's what you want to do. You want to make that distinction. Is the bet I'm placing an outlier or not? And I mentioned that some sports books are sharper than others. Well, there are three, and this is specifically for player props. Let me clarify. There are three sports books that you want to look at specifically with player props. If the bet that you're placing is an outlier to those three, that's a good sign. The first one, and this is the most important one, is Pinnacle. Pinnacle is the sharpest sports book in the world. In terms of the numbers that feed into the no vig odds, Pinnacle is given the heaviest weight. Pinnacle prices this at plus 125. That's a good sign. And I will say Pinnacle, OddsJam, same exact thing. They're the same book. So this is all one book. Pinnacle prices it at plus 125. Another sharp sports book is BetOnline. BetOnline prices this at plus 126. That's a good sign. And the third one, and this is only for player props, this is specific to player props, this third book is DraftKings. I don't know if DraftKings uses DFS data to feed into their player prop odds. I just know they do a good job with player props compared to the rest of the market. They're not perfect, right? Nobody's perfect, but they're better than the rest of the betting market. They price this at plus 125. So all three of the sharp books are in agreement. Plus 125, plus 126, plus 125. That's a good sign. And then what you want to do, you want to compare to every other book, right? Let's just make sure that the rest of the sports books also align with the three sharp ones. Now, I will say, if the three books are aligned, the most likely scenario is that the other books are going to be aligned as well. But you still want to check, right? Betfred plus 120, FanDuel plus 124, Caesars plus 116, PointsBet plus 125. Good to go. This is an awesome betting opportunity. If you place player prop bets that look like this, regardless if the odds range from plus 150 down to minus 117, if you're consistently betting on outliers, you will be profitable in the long run. This is specific to player props. Now, one cool thing about the OddsJam Positive EV page is this filter option. You click this filter button, you can filter specifically for the NBA. You can also filter for specific markets. So if you want to bet on player props, just filter out main markets and alternate markets, and there you go. There you have it. You can bet on player props. But that's what I recommend doing for player props. So another question I get, and what I will say, this percent here, this is your percent of expected value. The bigger the gap between the no vig odds and the book that you're placing equals a bigger expected value percent. So another question I get is, should I only bet on plays that are a high EV percent, right? Oh, should I not bet on anything below 1%, below 2%, whatever? And the answer is no. Even plays that have lower EV percents, like below 1%, can still sometimes be really good. What you need to do is click into the play to view the rest of the betting markets. Like this Patrick Williams one, over 1.5 turnovers, it's only 0.94%. If you weren't considering plays below 1%, you would miss out on this opportunity. This is a really good one. Pinnacle at minus 101. DraftKings at plus 100. Check two of the three sharp books. That's good to go. Caesars, minus 104. BetMGM, plus 100. Good to go. Every single sports book is Betfred is an outlier to every single sports book. So that's player props. Now let's talk about main lines. And I will say the strategy is very similar. There's a little bit different when you're betting on a non-player prop that we can talk about. So main lines, even alternate markets as well, strategy is the same. You're looking at spreads, totals, and money lines. Strategy is pretty much the same. You want to compare the no vig odds to the book that you are placing, and you want to identify if you're betting on an outlier or not. If the answer is yes, that's good to go. Now, in terms of sharp books, don't consider DraftKings a sharp book when it comes to main lines. To basically anything that's not a player prop, don't consider DraftKings a sharp book. But you do still want to compare the rest of the betting market, right? Like this is a first half total in the Bucks versus Cavaliers game. Bet Rivers, which is the bet that we are placing, prices this at plus 148. Every other book, Pinnacle, plus 133. FanDuel, plus 132. BetMGM, plus 120. This is good to go. I would place this bet. This is a really good bet. And then another thing you can do, so if you're betting on like a main market, like this is a perfect example. Pacers versus Celtics under 234. You're betting on a main market, right? The total points. This is a main line, one of the three main lines, a total points. So yes, you still want to compare the sports books and where they price each other. So minus 110 on Caesars, DraftKings minus 125, Betfred minus 130, blah, blah, blah. This is good to go, right? This is an outlier. But with totals and spreads, this also works for player points. Anywhere in which there's a higher number, there's an additional step that you want to do to make sure that you are placing the best of the best. And what you want to do, view this event page in a new tab. So when you click open a positive EV play, the way it works is it pulls up where every sportsbook is pricing this individual play, right? Where's every book pricing the over 234? Where's every book pricing the under 234? Well, not every single sportsbook is going to have their main line at 234, right? Like we've learned that sportsbooks are going to have different odds for different things. They're also going to have different main lines. Not every book is going to have this total over under 234. So if you view this event page in a new tab, it pulls up where every sportsbook prices the main line at. So we can compare. How does every sportsbook compare to this 234 that we are betting? And in terms of main lines, let me zoom out just a little bit so we can look at everything in one screen. So when we're looking at main lines, you still want to look at Pinnacle as the sharpest. You still want to look at Bet Online, but Bookmaker is the third one in this case. So basically you want to make sure that the bet you are placing is an outlier to all three of these books. And this is another amazing, amazing play. We are getting the under 234 at minus 110 at Caesars. No other, to start off, let me back up. To start off, no other sportsbook has their main line at 234, not a single one. Some sportsbooks have it at 233 and a half, but that looks just to be BetMGM. So one sportsbook has their main line a half point lower than what we are getting it at 234. Then we see sportsbooks price it at 233, a full point lower than what we are getting it at. That would be PointsBet, that would be DraftKings, that would be Betfred, and that would be Pinnacle. So that's a good sign, a full point lower. And I'll talk about why that's such a big deal in a little bit. And then we see some sportsbooks price it at 232 and a half, so a point and a half lower than what we got it at. That would be FanDuel, and that would be two of the sharp ones. That would be BetOnline and Bookmaker. And not only does BetOnline price this a point and a half lower, it also favors it going under, right? BetOnline has the under priced at minus 113. They have the over priced at minus 107. They are favoring this going under at a point and a half lower. That's a huge deal. So when you're betting on spreads and totals, you want to compare the rest of the market's main lines to yours. Since we are taking an under, we obviously want to make sure, does every sportsbook price their main line below this amount? The answer is yes. It's the opposite if we're taking an over. Like let's pretend we are taking the over 232. Does every sportsbook price it above this amount, including the sharp ones? If the answer is yes, then that's a good play. Now, I understand one thing you're going to do. You're going to say, congratulations, you beat the closing line by 1 point or a point and a half or even half a point. Why is that such a big deal? If this total goes up to 250, it doesn't matter how close, or it doesn't matter that you beat the closing line. If the total ends at 220, you would have won all these bets. And you're right for one individual bet, but the goal is to profit over the course of time. You want to profit 17K, right? And beating the closing line for one individual bet might not make a huge difference. Beating the closing line over the course of 1,000 bets makes a huge difference. And let me explain why. So let's pretend you bet 1,000 times. You're placing 1,000 bets. Every single bet you place at minus 110 odds. Every single bet. Let's also pretend in terms of your bet size, you bet $110, basically saying you are risking $110 to profit $100. 1,000 bets. You win half your bets. You go 50%. Doesn't feel horrible. You place 20 bets, you win 10. Doesn't feel horrible. Well, guess what? If you're doing this exact situation, you would have lost $5,000. If you bet 1,000 times at minus 110 odds, risking $110, and you win 50% of your bets, you just lost 5K. Now, let's up that win percentage just a measly 5%, from 50 to 55%. So you won, instead of 10 of your bets, you won 11 of your bets. But when you're thinking about that, it doesn't feel that different, right? Just as you're looking through your bet slip, one bet doesn't feel that much different. But going from that 50 to 55% instead of losing 5K, you are now up $4,500. So literally a 5% win percentage difference goes from down 5K to up 4.5K. It's a $9,500 difference, 9.5K difference, just that 5%. One way to increase your win percentage from 50 to 55, just line shop. Make sure you're getting the most up-to-date odds, the best odds for every single play. And by doing that, you have to click into the market and see where every sportsbook prices it. So that's why line shopping, that's why looking into the markets to make sure that you are betting on a main line, on an outlier on the main lines is very, very important. And the last thing I'll say, a lot of people see how much profit that me or Alex or someone has made and think, well, I don't have that much. I can't do that. I started with a $500 bankroll, slowly worked my way up to now is at $10,000. So even if you have a smaller bankroll, this could still work for you. So I recommend reaching out to us, contact@oddsjam.com. We'll get you set up with a free trial, any type of training materials that you need, or a discount. But in terms of my strategy, how I've made over $17,000 betting on the NBA, there you have it. So if you have any questions for me specifically, hit me up in the comments. Would love to hear from you. But that's it. Other than that, I will say, if you enjoyed the video, I would appreciate if you could like the video, subscribe to the OddsJam YouTube channel. Helps me out a ton. But that's it. So appreciate everybody watching and have a good one.